we are right in the midst of the streaming wars.
We are. There's a lot of competitors all throughout the world. All the major media companies are investing in their own services.
I do not think that they're going to have a great quarter or have anything great to say about, new subscribers.
Netflix has become a victim of their own success. They led the way with streaming, and then just about everyone who makes movies or TV shows realized they wanted to get in on streaming too. In fact, not only does Netflix now have to compete against so many different networks who've launched their own streaming services, but they've also got to battle against giant tech companies like Apple and Amazon who've got into streaming and producing original content as well. And of course, it's definitely not ideal that Amazon as their competitor is the one who is powering Netflix using Amazon Web Services. All this competition is clearly bad news for Netflix in multiple ways. Firstly, of course, the simple fact that more competition obviously means consumers are more likely to pick a rival service instead of Netflix, or perhaps subscribe to Netflix for a couple of months, but then cancel and switch to a different service for another few months. However, the real bad news for Netflix was that all these companies started pulling their content off Netflix to use on their own service instead. Netflix used to have so much content from Disney and HBO and all these other networks, and now they've pulled it all off Netflix for their own streaming sites instead. As a result, Netflix has lost a lot of big shows like The Office and Friends. They've lost movies from Marvel and Disney. And whilst Netflix do of course still have some third-party content they license, it's nowhere near as cheap for them to license it as it was when they first started. However, despite all of the competition, until fairly recently, Netflix still looked to be in a good position, thanks to all the original content they're making. Plus, Netflix was one of the few companies who massively benefited from the pandemic, because suddenly the entire world was stuck at home looking for stuff to watch, and so Netflix's subscribers grew substantially. But in 2022, Netflix announced for the first time in a decade that they'd lost subscribers. And worse still, they admitted it's going to get harder to grow, and they expect to lose even more subscribers. Netflix's share price then had a truly remarkable implosion. In just a couple of days, they lost $50 billion off their market cap, and Netflix share prices still continued to plummet rapidly. Things only got worse for Netflix when they started talking about their new plans to try and make more money. For example, Netflix said they wanted to crack down on password sharing. This is a complete U-turn on Netflix's strategy when subscribers were growing. Netflix even once tweeted, "Love is sharing a password." But now their growth is slowing, they seem to want to make sure people aren't sharing passwords with friends or other households. This was made even less popular when Netflix decided to also raise their prices again. There does seem to be a worrying parallel here with Blockbuster, which is that when growth slows, they tried to squeeze more money out of existing customers, which resulted in making the service worse, instead of innovating to make the service better. Likewise, Netflix is considering introducing a cheaper subscription plan option that has ads on it. So you'd still be paying to watch Netflix, but you'd be getting ads as well. This idea was also met with a lot of criticism, because even though Netflix will continue to offer an ad-free option as well, you'll be paying a higher price for that. Now, when a lot of people hear these proposed changes, it's easy to think Netflix are basically just being greedy and driving people away. But to be fair to Netflix, it's not like they want to remove the good shows, it's just they've lost the license rights. It's not that they want to annoy users with ads, it's just they're trying to find a way to keep subscribers who want lower price subscriptions. And as for increasing the price in the first place, well, they want to raise more money to invest in making more original content, since they've lost so many licenses to other people's shows. I think the more justified criticism of Netflix is firstly the quality of shows they're making, or as SNL put it,
everything. Here's a look at one of our actual pitch meetings.
So, this show is about a girl named Ginny.
Yes, here's money. Go, make it.
Netflix has been throwing absurd amounts of money into content, like $100 million for Jerry Seinfeld comedy specials, $20 million each to Ryan Reynolds, The Rock, and Gal Gadot for starring in Red Notice. Netflix have literally had movies that have cost hundreds of millions of dollars each, and that wasn't really an issue when Netflix subscribers kept growing so rapidly. But once subscriber growth slows, the question becomes, is this sustainable? Do they need to double down on truly quality content instead of just pumping out quantity? And then even when Netflix does make a good show, they often seem to cancel it too early, and people are less likely to get into a show if they know it's been cut short without a proper ending. If you look at people's comments on Netflix, the sentiment towards them has definitely changed recently. To many, it feels like their value proposition has got worse. Less selection, higher prices. Which is why they need to get their success ratio higher with their original shows. Because many of their competitors have much bigger back catalogs of content that people already love. When Disney Plus launched, they set a target of 60 to 90 million subscribers by 2024. In reality, they hit 90 million by early 2022, meaning they're way ahead of schedule and doing even better than expected. To make matters worse for Netflix, there have even been issues internally lately, with some employees walking out on the company in protest over some of the content Netflix produced, which basically led to Netflix telling employees to leave if they're offended by its content.